Welcome back to another episode of Missing Triggers. Hey Sebastian, good to talk to you
Hey
again.
Kyle.
Hi,
Man, what's
how
up?
you been?
I've been good.
Good?
Just
Okay, that's good. That's
yeah. How have you
swell.
been, Kyle?
You know what? Fucking pushing, persevering, never giving up, never backing down. You know, the usual memes. I'm doing all right. Flesh and blood, you know?
Oh yeah.
A lot of stuff going on in the flesh and blood world. The episode title of this, as you guys see, is "Fuck MetaZoo." Just kidding. Don't fuck MetaZoo. Well, actually, yeah, fuck you, MetaZoo. We'll get into that a little later on. Ban me now. So, um, first and foremost, Sebastian, we've over the past couple weeks, it's been a lot of stuff developing as far as our team and Flesh and Blood in general, and Uprising, ProQuest Season 2, and a lot of stuff. And we have, obviously opinions on certain things going on, and we just want to give recaps on like how you and I have been, doing at these ProQuests that we've attended, and go from there. First and foremost, Sebastian, we had our first ProQuest, what, last weekend, was it? Gigabytes?
Um. Yeah. That was the weekend before at Gigabytes.
Yeah. Why don't you tell people how you ended up doing?
Um. I played 6 matches. I won the 3 skillful matches, and then the other 2 out of my other 3 matches were chain mirrors, where they drew 3 Art of Wars, and within the first 3 turns. So that's okay. And then I played against an aggro Prism who drew the best sequence ever, and he told me himself, I've never high rolled this bad before. All my opponents said, I'm sorry, before they beat me. So it's okay. But we got top 8, had
Got
fun,
some sleeves,
and
woo.
got some sleeves, exactly.
You guys ended up going
And
to
just
another tournament the next day too, right?
um yeah, we did. I ended up going to a South Carolina tournament where basically it was a $500 tournament. It was a 1K, but we didn't get enough participants. We'll get into that of this whole ProQuest season, and basically ended up splitting finals, helping an acquaintance get his invite. So that
That's
was good.
awesome. That's awesome. And then you went to one Saturday with us. Also in South
I,
Carolina, actually. I think you ended up top
yep,
eighting that one too.
yep, I top dated that one. Decent tournament overall, and then just punted against Nam. I was like, we were just trying to get Alex's invite, so the match really didn't matter because basically how the bracket was set up, if Nam and I were to win, either one of us would have to, scoop to
Have to
Alex in
play
the next round.
Alex. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it was like I wasn't really trying that match, and then I ended up like trying to search a blue minnowism on my Ursa turn because he was fatiguing me, and then I didn't even check, so I just assumed I had one, checked it, didn't have one, popped the time stat potion. I'm like, you got it,
Scoop.
Nom. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? This match doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah. Congrats to Alex on winning that one. He had to play. It was actually Bravo versus Starvo in the finals, and Alex got there with Starvo. But shout out to Stuart for getting all the way to finals with Bravo as well.
Yeah.
Beating Will on a very, very tight Bravo versus Prism match. So that was
Dude.
impressive to watch.
I mean, also beating Andrew, who's like, he's been fucking beating my ass with Chain. So,
Dude, Andrew's an anomaly or an enigma,
oh,
whatever, whichever one you want to talk about. Like
dude,
he's
it's crazy.
his brain works in mysterious ways, honestly.
His brain
Um,
works in mysterious ways, and his hands always have Art of War in them. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the correlation there, but here we are.
Yeah.
Um, and then we ended up going to one yesterday. Today's Memorial Day, so happy Memorial Day, Sebastian. Yeah, go team.
Thank you.
It Will ended up getting that one after losing in top 8 into a fucking sea of aggro decks for the most part,
Oh
and
yeah.
he got there at Prism. I couldn't be more happy for Will. So congrats to Alex and Will. We had a 100% conversion rate for the weekend. That's always the goal. So the last one to
Dude.
get their invite is Nathan. So we're gonna hopefully be rooting for him this weekend. He's got 2 he's going to.
Hey man, if you think about it, Nom won Gigabytes. We forgot to mention that. I
Yeah.
got to split the finals in the one I went to. Alex won the one on Saturday. Will won the one on Sunday. That's 100% out of 4 tournaments of us winning. Or
It's actually
yeah,
nuts. It's actually nuts.
yeah, that's actually nuts.
And then for me, I've only played in realistically one,
Three,
if you
yeah,
really want to talk about it, but yeah, three. So at the Gigabytes on Saturday, it's Friday night. I was like, I really don't want to play any of like the real decks. I kind of want to go back to my old Katsu deck that I, you know, had pretty good success with in RTN season, just with a few changes, and ended up making top 4 of the Gigabytes when losing. My only loss was to Nam twice, and he ended up winning the tournament. So that made me feel really good about the deck. I think overall that day I went 5-2, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Obviously, Prisms were really easy to beat, and also um, other decks that kind of don't want to block and block as inefficiently as I do. I think I can have a little bit more damage output unless they see a channel mount plus a huge turn, like for Briar, for example. And I ended up beating like a Starvo in that tournament too, so that was pretty neat. But yeah, I ended up getting top 4, which is neat. My last 2 tournaments, I ended up scooping to Will because I'm not going to go to France. So Will and I played round 3. I scooped to him, but then we on the side went and go play, and I ended up winning off of a Razor Reflex sandbag for a game. So I count that as a win, Will. So fuck you. And then yesterday was just was not my day. So I just decided just to chill out and support Will, support Alex, and support Nam while they played, and just had a good time. Got to meet the owners of the store, Mighty Meeple, and it was a good time. I like that area a lot, the Charlotte area. That store, the guy's name is Kyle too. Really cool dude. So shout outs to them. Shout outs to again Alex, Will, and Nam, and you, Sebastian, for you guys fucking just killing these past 2 weekends. We got 2 more we're going to this last weekend. So hopefully, maybe perfect world scenario. I win the one in Alabama, or the one in Georgia, and then Nathan wins them. So we can just go. We can legitimately have all of us at least with our invite, even though I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be neat. So with that being said, of course, we have one more week of Starvo. Thank fuck. And then it looks like Chain might Living Legend out more than likely by the end of next week. I want to say at the beginning of last week, he needed 22 more wins, and I know quite a bit of ProQuest where Chain won. So It's on the horizon for Chain to go. So shed a tear. Sorry, Sebastian, but it had to happen.
Overall, I'm pretty happy about it.
Oh, for sure.
I think we touched up a little bit about this last episode, but I like how it's going to widen the format because I think Chain and Starvo, both their hero abilities are pretty broken in themselves, and I think if you remove the hero ability from Chain, the deck is not the deck, and I think if you remove the hero ability from Starvo, the deck is not the deck, which is, I don't think necessarily a good thing, right? Most decks in Flesh and Blood, if you play them, even if the heroes blink, the deck would still function. But with Chain, it really wouldn't, and with Starvo, it really wouldn't. So it's kind of weird. But I'm glad, and
it was kind of neat to see the ProQuest season this last week or two, where you didn't have a high representation of Starvo, and not as many people were also playing Chain. They were playing kind of like how they did, like how I did. Where it was just like, I kind of want to have fun. I want to play something that I haven't played in a while or I haven't tried out yet. And so you got to see a lot of Reinars, some Levia. You saw a couple Levia, one Levia won a ProQuest, and I want to say it might have been Malaysia. And I see more Dorinthia representation.
That Levia's first living legend points added to it.
Yes, that was the first ever living legend points added to Levia. So that's pretty neat. You saw a lot more Lexis come out. And I think overall you're seeing sort of, a wider range of results because of that. And I think honestly that's going to ring true throughout the next, time we have with Uprising. I think there's going to be, a wider variety of decks that are going to be represented. Hopefully. But But I thought that was pretty freaking neat to see that a lot of other decks were having success over the last few weekends. So um, I enjoyed that.
I enjoy it too. And I think most people, especially in America, they're like, I'm not gonna go to France, so let me just go ahead play my little pet deck. And I guess there was some pro quest where everyone had that mentality where they're like, I'm here to have fun. I'm not here to necessarily win. If I win, that's really cool. Um, but they brought their deck in like the Katsu deck where you're like, man, it has a rough time into Starvo, but I'm pretty good into everything else, so I'll just, hedge my bets, and they ended up not seeing a Starvo, and then, they did well, or because I
Or you get
believe
meshed against every single prism in the room. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
oh, by the way, just he legitimately lost all three of his prism matches. By the way, with Katsu. Just want to let you know that.
That's a yikes.
Dude, it was
That's
bad.
a yikes.
I wanted to just add that. But I mean, I guess to segue into that, I'm tired. I'm a, I'm
Oh, dude.
I'm a little burnt out from traveling to a lot of events. And I guess this segues into kind of the RTN season that's coming up. Kind of comparing it to what we had last year to what we
Yeah.
have this year. And it
Oh,
is a little lackluster for I guess what people are trying to accomplish, which is to play in their country's national championship. So
yeah.
looks to me that let's go over the prizing for RTN season 1. It was first place got a tunic mat, a rainbow foil extended art tunic, and then
No cold
top
foil. I
4
I don't.
got there. Yeah, there was like no coal foil, right? Or there
Top
were coal.
four got to exude confidence, Matt. And
Yep,
then
that
top and a cold foil, and then
and their invite.
I in their invite, and then
Yeah,
top 8 just got a cold foil. But
yep.
at the time, the cold foils were worth a good bit of
They
money.
were like $200-$300 a piece for the most part, right?
Yeah.
I want to say prisons were up to like 4 at that point. And now you're looking at first place gets a cold foil Icelander and their
Yep.
invite, and then one of the random of the other 2 cold foils being Fire Dromai.
Hmm.
And then that's it. The top 4 get
Yeah.
their invite, and then top 8 get one or the other of the other 2 heroes, Fire Dromai.
I I don't know why LSS had such an amazing prizing structure, and they decided to kind of back away from that starting with this ProQuest season. Last ProQuest season, I would say was really cool because you got a mat. Even if the mat wasn't worth something, it's still cool if you're in the finals to get something for, receiving that big L. you know,
Yeah.
like let's be honest here, right? If
Yeah.
you make the finals of this season, not only do you not get a mat and a cold foil hero, they throw a pack of sleeves at your head and be like, "Hey man, thanks for playing." It's like, "Oh my goodness,
Good
like I just
fucking
played."
try, huh?
Yeah, like potentially you could win 5 rounds of Swiss, 2 rounds of top 8, go 7-0, and then lose in finals, and then not even get a cold foil promo or um and with this kit, I believe there's not even on entry promos.
I don't know if I saw any of that either. I could be
I
wrong,
I
but I'm
I
not
have
sure if
not
I even
received
saw
the
that.
on entry promo at any of the ProQuest I've been to, so I don't believe there's even with the skirmishes you kind of they threw you a copper token, just like hey thanks for playing. Like I appreciate that in some sense, and then
Yeah, right.
um with this and then segueing into the RTN season, it's like last year you got an extended art legendary, which was like crazy. And
Which was it was the draw that we had so many people show up to so many RTNs and
I
people
know,
traveling 5, 6, 7 hours thinking they could take one down, and you had people traveling and winning them because of this, and so attendance was spiked out of the roof because the prizing was very very good, and
yeah.
now we don't have that at all.
And I think they kind of outdid themselves. Like when you think about it, right? They went from an extended art legendary to like a gold foil common or majestic. I thought that was an upgrade, right? I was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. And in ProQuest Season 1, this is the other thing we're talking about is due to the decline of prizing, ProQuest Season 1, every ProQuest I went to was pushing almost 50 players. I mean, the Gigabytes one had uh, damn near 50 players that we went to. And then even the ones on the smaller side were 30 players,
Like
right?
30, 35 players. Yeah, like
I
the
mean,
ones
the
that
level
literally
up
could
one,
that could barely hold that exactly.
yeah.
Level up one almost had like 45 players. You know,
No,
so
I believe it had over 50.
was it? That
Yeah.
was a blur to
I
me.
believe
But
yeah, dude, it was crazy.
you mean I top
And
eight at a tournament with 50 people in it?
yeah, you
Oh
did.
shit, I'm good at this game. Let's go.
And I'm just saying how crazy that is versus this where I played in a 16 player one, a 23 player one, a 13 player or a 14 player one in South Carolina. I'm just like, I can't believe that these tournaments, I get it that the tournament at France isn't as appealing to people, but like people aren't even going out to just be like, I want to play, which is
Yeah,
crazy to me.
it,
And I
it
think
it
it
is
is
pretty
due
weird.
to that, like, hey man, if I make top eight, I don't even I don't even get anything. Or the draw of going to the RTNs last season is okay, so or I mean RTNs or ProQuest is like, okay, so I spend a couple hours driving there in a group with a couple buddies. If I don't win but I top eight, I get a cold foil I can sell for a
Like a
hundred, maybe two
hundred,
hundred
hundred
bucks.
fifty bucks. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then, I get some dinner, I pay for the gas, and hey, at least I got to have fun and spend time with my friends. But now it's like, if you drive more than a couple hours, it's a straight neg unless you win the event.
yeah. I mean, like
It's
the
like
sleeves are neat, but like it just pays you back for your
entry,
gas and
barely.
your entry. You know what I mean? Or
Oh,
like lunch and entry. And like I know that's not the super duper angle they want to be pushing is like just making a lot of money, but I mean at the beginning that was kind of like the draw, right? Of doing these is,
yeah.
I think we're really good at the game. So let's go and try to win a little bit of money and have fun at the same time, but I don't
And
I don't know what their angle is but by not wanting to at least kind of match or do a little less than what they did at least like to do something whereas like if even if you did where top four didn't get play mats that's still such a big draw for a lot of players to come out and play
yeah.
and like
Uh,
I don't know.
and then going from, if you're looking at this from the perspective of like, you shouldn't be playing the game for money, all this and that, you should be playing for fun. I see where you're coming from, and I agree with that to some extent. And it's not on LSS to provide prizing,
Nope.
but if if you have that mentality, like the Magic mentality, where it's like the game, oh, the store should provide the prizing. The problem is, if the pricing's not good enough, people aren't going to come out, which means the stores aren't going to provide it, which means that we're going to have small tournaments, and this game just isn't big enough to support 1Ks. Every
Yep.
store that I've seen do a 1K has been burnt on the 1K. And that's the hard
Yep.
truth of it. I mean,
Yep.
I've not seen one store do a case tournament or a 1K and actually make their money back or make a profit on it. So now, and that's what the store in South Carolina did. It was a 1K, but that was with 36 players. I believe we got 16 players.
Yeah, they were 20
So
players off. Yeah.
yeah, they were yeah 20 players off. So I think they ended up just doing like $400 or $500 for it. So it's just kind of, I'm glad LSS was doing so much in the beginning. Um, and I think to keep on drawing people in, because stores are not confident enough in this game yet to put their own money on the line for it, I think there needs to be a continuation of decent prizes for the top, not just so the same grinders can go there and try to make a profit. It's just so people can have a reason to travel to these events. People want to go into a tournament and go, "Hey, I have a chance to win something cool if I top 8," right? If the average casual player goes, well, even if I go to that pro quest and get lucky and or not get lucky or play well and I get top 8, I don't even get anything. And a lot of players know, like, well, if I'm playing in a good area with good players, I'm probably not going to win, but hey, at least if I got top 8, get a cool cold foil, add to my collection, you know, get a cool play mat, add to my collection. That's really cool for me.
Yeah.
But not being able to have that's hard.
Another thing that I just thought about too is, with one of the big things that LSS, even last year were preaching a lot is they want people to play in the flesh and blood. That's
Yeah.
their call to action. That's their thing. And one of the things that James White and everybody was preaching is we want more people. We want to support the local game stores. But
Yeah.
now you set yourself up so highly at the beginning one, right? That these stores now are so excited to have this RTN or these ProQuest coming to them, and so they can have more players in their store. But you set yourself up super high and have these super high expectations for these prizing, where now when you have lesser prizing, you're not going to get the big attendance you had previous seasons. So in case it might be more or less hurting these LGSs now,
Yeah.
where like, oh, we get a kit and everything, but oh, we had 18 people this time compared to the 40 people we had last time. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, and I think that discourages some stores from even wanting to keep running Flesh and Blood, because they're not seeing any sort of growth from it. Because I mean, I could go on and on about it. There's another thing I
Yeah.
want to talk about as far as stores. I know I've seen a lot of it where LSS is encouraging stores to add in their own prizing, and
Yeah.
a lot of stores aren't doing that either. So this is not the stores that are not sort of kind of thriving off of like a ProQuest or a Skirmish or an RTN, but these stores that have a presence in their own community and like an entire state, and they're not like, I'm traveling, upwards to 2 or 3 hours to go to this tournament. I'm paying $25, but I'm still just getting sleeves, right?
Yeah.
Whereas they're being encouraged to give out a little bit more to help people and whatnot, and they're still not doing it. So it discourages even the players from even
From going.
traveling to this place again. It's more, we're kind of swapping roles as far as where the LGS and the LSS scenario, and it's just discouraging all around at this point. Like if you would have
Exactly.
started RTN season last year, kind of like how you're doing now, and then swapped it up, like we're only regressing at this point in a certain
Exactly.
stance as far as all of that. And I want this game to grow, and I think you set your expectations too high in that regard. I
Yeah.
think they could
And
fix it going
I
going
think there's going to
forth, but
be a healthy balance where we'll find that medium point where LSS like finds the right prizes to, the right prizes where it draws in the player, but the LGS also has to maybe put up something to really get those big 40, 50, 60 player numbers.
yeah.
But with this season, I felt like a lot of stores didn't put the effort forward, and then the prizing from LSS was the effort wasn't put forward. Especially with the gold foils being the exact same from last season too. I was like, oh really? Like we can't even get some other cool commons, like throw in a Halo of Illumination instead of an Evanfold. Um, do
Yeah,
do
that was
some
another
do some,
thing. That was another
yeah.
thing that I didn't want to even get into, but yeah, I mean like that. Yeah. Yes, exactly that. Like
Bro,
it's the same exact crap, or not crap. It's the same exact um uh gold foils as it was last season.
yeah.
Maybe they change that going into the next season, like next year, where it's going to be like another set of gold foils, which would be awesome, right? But um, go on, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, and that's pretty much it. We're still gonna go to these tournaments. We're still gonna have fun. The main
Shit,
thing
I'm
should
still
be
gonna go, but because I
still
enjoy my
still
time with my
playing.
friends and meeting the community and everything. So yeah,
Exactly. But I think it I just hate going to a tournament and seeing, 20 players instead of 40, 50 players. I really love it when I go to one of these ProQuest or one of these art Road to Nationals last year and it was like a big tournament. I was like, man, even winning one of these things is actually pretty damn cool. Or top 8ing even is pretty damn cool cuz there is that many players there.
yeah. I guess segue into that. I'm fucking tired, bro. When can we get weekends off? Like you're going from ProQuest season to a couple calling into skirmish season to one other calling into uh Vegas into RTN season. Like we literally don't have a weekend off. As
Yeah,
far as
and
if people just want to play Flesh and Blood, and it's tiring, and people get burnt out really bad.
and this is the perfect connection between what we were just saying and now what we're saying. This game, LSS, I appreciate that they're acting like they're the big boy in the room. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do all these crazy cool things, like we're gonna have events every weekend. But they have to realize, even in Atlanta, where we're considered to have a strong community, we're not Magic the Gathering. Every single LGS we have, because in Magic, every single LGS in an area might have 40, 50 players that frequents that LGS. In Atlanta, we might have like 50 players at a time, that are playing total across the whole Atlanta area, going to all these. And then right now in this off season, I feel like we have like 30 consistent players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Yeah.
not all going. Like I'm one of those players, but I haven't been to a local in forever because of work and schedule and all that. And I think that LSS is doing this game to this. They're trying to scale it like it is Magic, but we kind of need to hold on a second and be like, hey, let's build the players, let's build the casuals, so that way the game stores can actually run a weekly armory. Because, I mean, it does suck. Just imagine if you're trying to go to the Saturday weekly armory, you have your day off,
And
and
there's no
then
Saturdays available because
there's
other
no
people.
Saturdays available
Yeah,
because
it's just
everyone's
ridiculous.
either at the calling, they're at a skirmish, they're at a pro quest, they're at a road to national, they're at a
Mm-hmm.
pre. It's like, when do you have the time to community build? And you might say, well, you have it during the week, but the problem is every most people work, right?
Yeah, it's
And
hard to
most people's
get off
schedules,
the
yeah,
weekdays if you're going every single weekend, making sure that you have the schedule enough to do weekend stuff that you're trying to do every
exactly.
single weekend. I don't know. It's just feel like there's a few things that could be restructured in that regard. But at the
I
same
I
time,
feel like I feel like there will be a healthy balance, because there needs to be one, because there just needs to be more community building, and more things to go that direction. Because I do love the fact that from the grinder perspective, that we went from into literally as the pro tour was happening, we were in ProQuest 2 season, right?
yeah.
Like we were in ProQuest 2 season, and then we have Vegas next weekend because this is the last week of the ProQuest season,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have a 1 week off, I believe, and then pre-release, or is pre-release the
I want to
weekend
say
after?
pre-release is literally the weekend after the world premiere,
Oh
so
yeah, no,
after
it is.
Vegas.
So
Yeah,
so then you go from that, and then you have the set release the next Friday. So I guess we're off until,
you
if
have
you
like
go
2 weeks
Friday, Saturday,
until
Sunday.
RTN season, maybe something like that.
Yeah, because it's July 3rd.
July 3rd weekend, I think.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah,
So you
July
have a whole
July
two,
4th,
July 4th
I
on a Monday.
think. I want to. I hell if I know. I'll look at it later. But
Well,
it's right
well,
around
well,
there.
let's just say it starts that weekend, right? So that means you have 2 whole weeks to test the set before you're just back into tournament grinding. Uh, so you see, the problem was there that we have like what 2 months of doing stuff, and then you have 2 weeks of times where you can go to your LGS and play and test and have fun, and then it's just straight back to the grind for the
Mm-hmm.
next month. And I'm sure that the
July
Road to
2nd.
Nationals, July 2nd. Okay, so yeah.
Yes,
Oh, so you have, my bad, 1 week, or
1 week.
yeah, you have 1 week to test the set. Okay, that's even better. You have 1 week to test the set, so you have 1 week where you can go to your locals and have fun, and then it's straight back to the grind.
Yeah, 1 week. 1 week. So shout out
And
to Polaris.
I'm sure they have a skirmish season and a calling plan right after this RTN season, and then you have nationals and and then worlds qualifier. Like I love it in one sense, but at the same sense, it's like the game just isn't there yet where you have your casual commander pods, or in this game, ultimate pit fight pods, to be there on your Friday, Saturday nights to hold the community together, because there's just not a a crazy casual fan base yet who's like, I love this one store. In our case, let's just call it Gigabytes, right? Or Level
Yeah.
Up. I love this one store, Gigabytes or Level Up. I only want to play Flesh and Blood here. And this is my community. I have one day off a week and I can play it here. And then if new players come, they always have someone there on Friday and Saturday that can teach them how to play.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that in Flesh and Blood yet. You have people who love the game, passionate about the game. They want to go to these road to nationals. They want to go to these, callings and grind these tournaments or, have fun at these tournaments and just trying to find the healthy balance where, you know, you can have the battle harden and we're not even getting into the battle hardens, right? Isn't there one coming up?
Yeah, like
Secaucus?
yeah, those are their own things. So, I mean, there's just I mean, it's a cool thing that you literally have a weekend. You can just choose. You can pick and choose
Yeah,
what to do. If you're not a super grinder like a lot of the community is, I guess in the United States, for example, um,
yeah.
it's just a lot.
It is a lot. Um, and that's why you see people who want it. And here's the other thing, yeah, we can kind of connect into that. It's almost punishing to take a break because LSS doesn't tell you, hey, you need points for nationals, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tell you halfway into the season. So let's say, um, I'm tired after the Pro Tour. I didn't want to play this Pro Quest 2 season. Let's just say I'm going to France, right? I'm like, yeah, I already got my invite to France or whatever. I have my PTI. I don't want to play this Pro Quest 2 season. Or, you're tired, and then they're like, oh, by the way, this segues into nationals. So if you didn't play in the Pro Quest season, now you won't have enough points to go to nationals, and you'll have
Mm-hmm.
to make sure you top four. They do stuff like that where it's like you almost got you were right on the cusp for the Pro Tour XP just because you
Yeah.
didn't play hard during
Yeah.
that skirmish season.
Yeah, that took skirmish season off to record and to do content and stuff. And so, um, when they were like, "Oh, ProQuest season is up and out," I'm like, "All right, cool." Oh, by the way, you have 3 weeks or you have 4 weeks to figure it out, and a lot of my XP fell off because of just how it works. And so
Exactly.
I legitimately played cards every single day for an entire month, and I traveled a lot, and that's the reason why after Indy I was like, I'm done for a minute, like,
Oh yeah.
and it's
Wait, yeah,
I don't know, it's just blah. Um,
it is play.
but
But
yeah, no weekends off
going
can
into
suck my ass.
yeah, but overall, let's get into the super excited about Uprising, right?
Dude, our fucking preview is incredible.
Yep.
I
It
cannot wait to show that on the main channel soon. We're gonna do a skit, and it's gonna be fucking hilarious. I hope. I'm gonna try to make it hilarious. We're gonna have to write a script for it, but it's gonna be hilarious. And it's
overall a lot
just
of
it's
fun.
just refreshing. It's just
Yeah.
refreshing to see new cards, and it ignites my love for the game back because it's this last couple months have just been very stale and very tiring because of just Starva. Literally, for the most part, that's it. Other than Viscerai too, to a certain extent, but it's just
I,
neat to know that we're going to get a fresh new batch of cards that we can start playing with and freaking just it's just good for the community all around. I don't know.
well, I mean, I'm just happy to see new heroes because we've been playing a year now, right? And
Of chain.
since Monarch, yeah, yeah. So since Monarch, there's only been four new classic constructed heroes I can play with, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, right? It's like the format hasn't really like it's changed, of course, right? But the
But like,
hero
has
pool
it
hasn't
really?
hasn't really changed, and it's crazy to think that Everfest came out in September. I mean,
Jesus
Tales of
Christ.
Aria. Tales of
Tales,
Aria
yeah,
came out in
Tales of Aria.
September, and since that, we've only had one hero that's come out that we can kind of toy around with. So Uprising is going to be the first three new heroes. I'm just excited for new heroes,
Yeah,
honestly, and
honestly, really.
I think that with their supplementary sets, right, like they did with Starvo, please don't make it as broken again. But honestly, they should put two new heroes in there. I feel like they should sprinkle a little bit extra because, man, we went from that awful Briar format into this like, crazy Starvo format, and you're just like, and I really hope that this set is really well done and balanced and everything, and I'm super excited and all the intricacies. I think the level of skills are gonna come back into the game with Ice being such a big part of the game, Wizard being, I assume probably one of the best decks. Whenever a new mechanic comes out in a card game, it's usually pretty good because power creep's a thing in all card games, and new mechanics means new ways to play, and they're usually better than the old ways to play. So I'm super excited that Icelander's going to be doing some crazy things. This Dromai with the allies, that's going to be cool. And if you think about what's the hardest classes to play in the game, it's like people say Illusionist and Wizard are the two hardest classes, some of
Yeah.
them. So I'm super excited to see that hopefully these decks are hard to play and there is a little bit of a skill gap back in the game, and you can't just go turn one Oakenold Fuse into Spinal Fuse into, Evergreen into Hammer, and it's just like
I think LSS learned from their mistake. With Starvo. Obviously, we made a mistake post and everything, whatever. But
yeah,
I mean, it's still a learning process. They're a fairly new company, and they have a testing team, and everything. I think they now have slightly figured out that their excuse for why Starvo is so good now is because he wasn't good in testing. When you had Briar with Plunderon and the Cheerios Briar deck, and then also Chain with Plunderon and everything, it wasn't competing with those two decks. But they also now have to take into consideration and know what they're going to do for like a ban list or something, or what they're going to do
exactly.
next with that, to where they can implement that into their testing to see if, well, Starvo's a fucking problem if we do this, and it's not good for the game. And so now they
Exactly.
have another angle they can push when developing these cards and these sets, and how these decks should function and all this other stuff. So again, it's
Uh,
trial and error, and I know people make complaints about it, but we're gonna get to where we need to be later on, just
and
because
and
of that moment where Starvo fell through the cracks after the ban list.
and I trust LSS. They made mistakes and they'll find their process that really works, and they can really identify. I mean, it's so hard, I'm sure, in the developmental side, building a card game when you have old cards that could come up and be broken, many sets later, you know, thinking about those cards and testing around those cards and everything. Um, but like you said, they learned a lot from this last time. I mean, James White said himself at the Q&A uh, in New Jersey that they've learned a lot and they don't want this to have to happen again. It probably will at some point, but that's okay. Um, that's fine if it does. That's just card games. You're always going to have a bad format thrown in there, but I'm really hopeful that for Uprising that we'll have a couple really cool new refreshing heroes, cool decks come out, and I'm actually really excited for the first 2 weeks of the RTN season because if you remember, like the ProQuest in the Buckland Calling when Monarch first came out, there was a lot of cool decks that were able to shine, and I believe the first RTN season when Monarch came out, you had you had Axis Dory win a road to nationals, and you can have all these weird decks winning that first week of the set being released, and people still don't know what the meta is, and they haven't made their refined list of whatever's the best deck. So
Yeah.
I'm excited, and I'm just bring on Uprising. Fuck Everfest. I never want it to come back, or
Yeah,
uh,
I never want to go back to the fucking carnival, James.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thanks.
See you later,
Uh,
Upperfest.
yeah.
Um,
I never want to see Bravo in action again.
I want to issue a challenge to players really quick.
Yeah.
Don't make yourself a one trick with Starvo. You go and you fucking you high roll these tournaments and you win, and you see a lot of players that didn't necessarily do well in previous formats that are doing very well now. When you take a lot of the variants out of the game, the high roll variants, hopefully. Again, we don't know anything with Uprising yet. But if you take a lot of that variance and a lot of the technical gameplay out of it, I challenge the players that had a very good Pro Quest season and possibly even Pro Tour season. I challenge you to do that well next season. Because I guarantee you 75% of you, and I'm going to call you out, Alex Sneed. I'm lighting the fire under you. I want to see you do well without Starvo now. Okay? All these other players, I challenge you. I challenge you to actually learn how to pitch stack your deck. Granted, Alex knows how to pitch stack properly, but I challenge a lot of you to open your horizons and actually learn how to play the game at a proper level. You know, I'm gonna call you out, calling you all out. Fuck out of here with that shit.
I'm so glad that players won't be able to ride Oakenold into Crippling Crush, into Spinal Crush. And sure, at bigger events like Indy and the Pro Tour, it was a lot harder because you're riding on like a 35% high roll factor. But at these small Pro Quests, you can definitely ride on a 30% high roll factor for, 6-7 rounds and, just shoot your way to an easy spike.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can name a lot of people.
Oh. Oh yeah.
But I mean, it's the part of the game, and hopefully with a lot of other people's success, they find more of an enjoyment of the game where they want to learn more, and we see them, continue to do well just because of that that validation that they had playing those decks.
Exactly.
But you're gonna need to prove it to me.
And that's why I'm so excited, because even though my one trick is going away, I'm excited to get into it, be beat up on a new deck, learn new decks, and,
be
just
frustrated
really
for a minute and actually grind to learn it. Yeah.
And I can tell you, playing these last few Pro Quest seasons that, playing these last few Pro Quest tournaments that I know Chains so well now, it's kind of like almost not fun to play them, because like the lines just come so automatically. It's just like, all right, here, gonna give you this card, gonna do this, and I'm just glad that, and you could just say like, well, just play something fun. That's what I'm doing this weekend. I just wanted to. I was like, Chains game Living Legend. Let me try have a couple last hurrahs with him. My last hurrahs, I'm like, I'm kind of ready to move on,
Fuck
as a
this
player.
shit. I'll
And
play something else.
like last episode I talked about, I really want there to be another graveyard deck. So I hope that in the future, I can come back to some kind of shadow hero or a graveyard deck or something like that and whip out the ghostly visits, or maybe the shadow visceri that might be coming up that James White was like kind of teasing. Something like that where I can pull out the Seeds of Agony again and just have a hell of a time. And until then, I'm just happy to learn new decks. I'm looking at Icelander. She seems super cool, but obviously, if you play Icelander, I think they designed the set really well, because if you think about it, Illusionist usually has a good Wizard matchup, right? And then Wizard is going to have, especially Ice Wizard's going to have a really good Ninja matchup, and Ninja has a really good matchup into Illusionist. So I think they designed the set really well like that, where you're going to have kind of these heroes are going to kind of counter each other in the way, and you'll have to side your deck properly or find lines to beat them, whether it be in sealed or it be in classic constructed. And that's the other thing, man. We haven't even gotten to that. How excited are you for there to be some sealed and draft again?
Oh my god.
Well, draft
dude.
more than sealed.
Draft. I mean, I think France is going to be just like how Nats was, right? Where we're going to have draft and we're going to have CC. So I think we're back on the train of that. I know testing for nationals, we did quite a bit of drafting. And it helped us a lot. It's also another aspect of the game that's actually kind of refreshing if you think about it. Instead of now we also shout out to LSS for this, which I think is neat. And this might be good for attendance for these particular types of RTNs, but they're now doing draft RTNs for Uprising.
Oh yeah.
That is that is going to be neat. So
Sure.
I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be very refreshing for even the hardcore people who want to just play CC. I think that's good for the casual players come in, even just play, get some packs, and just get to play cards that they pull. I think that's going to be a good thing for the game, and I think LSS does need to learn how to balance it a little more to where we can have more time to do that. And
Yeah.
um, obviously with how first Pro Tour was, it was just CC, and it's all we had played for a couple months up to that point too. So it's nice to now get that change and go back to packs and drafting content, limited content in general, and learning more about the game. And I think
And
that's the angle they're shooting here. So
and I love the format of a pro tour or a calling being right after a road to national season. Um, e- Especially in nationals because you have this really cool dynamic, right? It's like, do you play the deck that you think is like the sleeper, the good deck for the road to national season, towards the end of the season when you're like, I think I figured out the deck, should I try to spike one of these road to nationals, or should I save this off until the pro tour, and maybe this can be the deck that counters the deck, and have that mentality going into the pro tour where you have to make sure your draft is on point. You have to make sure your CC is on point where you're either playing the best version of the best deck or you're playing like a possible sleeper deck that nobody has even thought of yet, and then you bring it out for the pro tour and then just run rampant. I love the idea of that, so I'm super excited for France
for sure.
and this whole
Um,
just uprising format in general.
I'm excited for you guys to win France somehow. I don't know yet, but you're gonna do it. Y'all are gonna do it.
Hey
One of
man,
y'all.
a European player won our pro tour, so it's only poetic justice if we go over there and
Right.
take that W. Yeah,
For sure. We
we
have
just
one
have to keep
question.
getting revenge on each other. We took their calling, they took our pro tour, and now let's get their pro tour.
Yeah. Make it like a friendly competition.
Exactly.
So for Q&A, actually, we have one question that I wanted to talk to you about since we have a little bit more time to talk, roughly about probably 5-10 minutes about it or so. Before I know you have to go to work and everything. So Cybran, shout out to Cybran, one of our patrons over at the Card Guys Patreon. So if you guys want to check that out, patreon.com/the Card Guys, which is the team Sebastian and I represent. Um,
Exactly.
one of our $10 patrons. Getting to know our patrons is probably one of the neatest things that we've really had to do, getting to build up our community. Cyber brings a pretty cool question to us, and I think we could talk about it. And we honestly could possibly dedicate an entire episode of how to help you develop your own community. His question is, what advice would you give new people who start with the game now, with all the stuff that you know now, throughout this entire year? Um,
Wow.
which, I mean, you, Alex, and myself worked our butts off to try to build our community here in Atlanta. Going to each individual store, getting laughed out of a couple stores, telling us we're idiots for even talking about Flesh and Blood, to now we have a
And
solid, over the course or over all the stores, I'd probably say we have about 50, 60, 70 players that
yeah,
are
and
playing
I mean,
consistently that we know personally. That might not even be all of them.
yeah,
So
and I mean like, and we have a Georgia group that has I think almost 250 people in it.
I
Um,
think it's like
so
almost 370. I could be wrong, but we have quite a bit of people that have just joined. Yeah, it's 339 people
yeah,
right
that
now.
that's what I'm talking about. So that's just the amount of players in Georgia that just want to be that are on Facebook, want to be connected to what's going on in the community right now. Now some of them have come and gone or they don't really play as much anymore, of course, but the fact that there are 300 people who are interested in the game who are like, yeah, let me join this community. I would say that if you're community building, go to the biggest LGS or the biggest, local game store or the one that you know the best and it has a really good time and they're good people running it. Go there, pick a date, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Probably Friday night's the best day with how crazy the what we were talking about the RTN and the Pro Quest season in is. If the store's big enough where they can have Friday Night Magic and Flesh and Blood, I know some stores aren't, but if they are, go on Friday night, say, I want to do Flesh and Blood nights on Friday night and try to build a community around one or two stores instead of trying to set up an armory every single night like we did. Because the
Yeah,
problem
for
is
sure.
when you try to make 7 nights a week where you can play, you have players who like to pocket at stores, right? They go to this one store and they go, okay, I like this store. This is the one night off a week I have, so I'm just gonna go to this store. And then you have so many tournaments where it's like 8 players, 5 players, 6 players, 10 players. Maybe during the really grinding season like RTNs and seasons like this where people are really excited to play like Pro Tour season, we were having like 15, 16 players, which is good having, that many nights of consistent 15, 16 players, but when it
Yeah.
slows down, you'll have like 5 to 8 players there, and then the store can barely fire off, and then they're like, "Oh, why are we're not selling as many boxes as we used to?" So just build a community in one or a couple of places.
Yeah, a couple places for sure.
A couple
Um,
places.
Try to set up for players setting now that Commoner is a format. Um, it's the lowest barrier to entry I've ever heard of for any card
Yeah.
game, right? So set that up. If you guys have a couple of, and Flesh and Blood refers to them as champions. If you guys have a couple champions that are trying to grow the community, that means they have access to cards because they've been playing for a little while. Or the store, for example, can come up with they could have commoner decks that they have pre-built and they can charge like $5 for one, right?
Yeah.
And that $5 gets you a deck that now you can play at every single commoner armory,
Yeah.
and
And,
it
and
just
that might just be like once a month have a commoner armory.
yeah,
Um,
and make that like on a weekend or something where like you want to drive the casual player base and give out prizings where like you can do pack per win or something. And like for a while that was driving our community, is like, for example, Level Up was doing a pack per win.
yeah.
And they were just giving out packs to people because they just want to see the game grow right now. And I think right now, focusing on Blitz and Commoner
And
and
sealed and draft. That's the other big one.
sealed and draft. If you guys
Which is
can balance
which I will
those
say
out,
has hurt our numbers recently because Tails has been so long ago, and Tails draft for sealed formats like meh. So it was
yeah,
like, are we real? And we did so much Tails draft that once it was over, we're like, okay, it's over. Like
no more of
I'm
this
not
for a little bit.
I'm not visiting Aria the same way I'm not visiting Everfest. All right.
It's gonna be a once in a
um.
decade trip for me.
Yeah, and there are players out there who just want to come out for sealed and draft, and you
We have
know,
quite a bit of those in our
yeah,
communities. They just want to draft. They just want to do sealed, and it's respectable. And um, I think that's the angle that a lot of players and a lot of stores need to look at, and definitely dive headfirst into, because if they can do that, they can leverage out later on to a lot of stuff, and it would build a super good community. And I think a couple stores, and I think Chicago, have done something similar to it. And you even saw ProQuest that had 64 players. When you're seeing ProQuest that don't even break 20 people at in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. So shout outs to Chicago for doing something that not many other areas have been doing correctly. So I commend them for that. But yeah, um all in all, focus on community driven stuff, commoner, blitz, drafts, limited in general. um if you also have a super competitive player base, you can have two different nights to where you can cater more towards the competitive players, but you have that community driven dedicated day to where you want to help grow the community in some way. And I think in a year's time, you're gonna be thankful that you went that route to do it. So, um,
yeah, I think that's pretty solid advice that we can give. Is just do
shit, that means we got
the
to do it now in Atlanta.
yeah.
But I'm all
That's
for
one
it.
thing that we know, but we struggle to implement. Just because of our schedules and everything, it's so hard. And if you have the open schedule, and that's why we're talking about having your schedule open. That's why we're saying do it one night a week at one or two stores or 2 nights a week. So if you are a tight schedule like us, at least on those 1 or 2 nights a week, you can really put forward that effort and talk to the players and be like, okay, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to draft tonight? You guys want to do commoner tonight? You guys want to practice some CC tonight? Like, you
Yeah,
can have these
you
discussions.
can have this schedule. You can help by the help of your community. You can have a schedule where you can do a draft 2 times a month, and then you can play commoner 2 times a month or whatever else. And the players can choose their own schedule essentially,
Yeah.
and that would be super beneficial. And then like the next month, if they wanted the same thing, you talk to them a couple weeks prior, and you come up with the new schedule. And so like you can always keep it fresh, and that's one thing that I think a lot of people need is just a reset and do something different with the game to keep their love for the game high. So
Yeah, and
um,
especially if your players also say, "Hey, I bought my CC deck. I want to play my CC deck. If I'm going to an armory, I want to play my CC deck." That you go, okay, well, then that's when you talk to the store and you're like, "We have a good number for CC players." Well, maybe if you have some extra time in your schedule, you go, "Hey, let's make one more day that's a casual night." You just run it on demand. That's
yeah,
your commoner night or your draft night. You're like, hey, you pay we'll split a box together or whatever it may be, and you just have a fun casual night. And so that way more people can get interested in play. If the majority of your community wants to stay on Blitz or CC, some kind of constructed format because they spent the money on the deck some, that was one of the problems we had in Atlanta is like, a lot of us we spent $1,000 on our chain decks or our
on
Briar
cards
decks
in
or
general. Yeah,
or your Dorinthia deck, and you're like, I really just want to play with the deck I spent a lot of money on.
yeah, exactly.
so so finding the balance between that too is also something you'll struggle with, but that's when I think it's better to have one or two stores have a couple nights a week where you can play Flesh and Blood than have 7 nights a week spread out where yeah you can do that maybe.
For sure. For sure. I think that's a good place to leave off at. Have a lot of people thinking about how they want to grow their communities. In the comments below, if you've made it this far, definitely let us know down in the comments what you've been doing to help grow your community. And maybe for one of our next episodes we can actually help schedule something to where I have a couple of people that I might want to talk to in regards to helping grow your communities, because I know that's the base of it all is the home LGS. And
Exactly.
that gives me really neat ideas going forward for um what we could talk about with some of these prevalent people in different local game store communities. So
Exactly.
I think we had pretty constructive talks in regards to you know our opinions, and hopefully LSS listens to this and maybe has a change of heart. That'd be cool. But yeah. So any final words before we close off and we go our separate ways for the day?
um no, not really. I'm just you know thank you for making it this far. I'm glad people are still enjoying this and listening, and I'm just super excited for everything in the future. And if you're going to Vegas and you want to talk, say hi. Alex and I will be there, and we'll be like, hey, what's up? Um, in the comments below. I mean, are you excited for Vegas? I'm pretty damn excited. But yeah,
Hell yeah. One more thing. It's been pretty neat doing these so far. I think we're like 4 or 5 in. We're like 4 or 5 in now, and we're working on branding and we're working on a few things, and very soon we're actually gonna have a like a station where we're gonna have our own audio booth and video. So we're gonna have video on these and also whatever else. So um, hopefully you guys are gonna be you know ready for this shit, and we're excited. And that's pretty much it for us today. So again, hygiene is number one. Love yourself. Smell good. Don't forget to brush your teeth in the mornings and at night. Don't forget to wash those pits. And damn it, please don't forget to wipe your ass if you taking nasty shit on the toilet in the middle of an event. And we'll see you guys in the next fucking episode. I love you all. Peace.